A week before the twins' birthday and 3 weeks before graduation, Holly and Glenn were in their secret makeout spot in the garage. Things were so hot and heavy, and it was like they were the only two people in the whole world. This turned out to be a grave mistake. Their comfortability and lack of caution when sneaking around was what ultimately got them caught. They were so into each other that they didn't hear Heidi walking into the garage to see if Holly wanted her to hang out. Glenn left in a hurry, so Holly was left to deal with Heidi's wrath alone. Heidi demanded to know everything. She was angry that Holly would betray their sister so badly. Holly explained that their secret relationship had been going on for a long time. She defended her actions on the basis that they were in love. Adriana was a great girl and would meet her perfect match in college. Holly wanted Glenn and only Glenn. Heidi demanded that Holly and Glenn come clean to Adriana once she returned home from college for the summer. At first, Holly told her sister that none of this was her business and she needed to leave it alone. She and Glenn would figure out what to do without Heidi interfering. Holly realized she was reverting back to her old way and apologized to Heidi. She promised that she and Glenn would be honest with Adriana at some point in the summer. She begged that she keep quiet until they were able to find the right time. She knew that their family would be furious and kick her out. Heidi agreed for the sole reason that she didn't want her sister to be without a place to live. Holly and Heidi's birthday arrived and tensions were high between sisters. Holly blew out her candles and wished that Heidi would forgive her for what she had done. She didn't care about Adriana's feelings or opinion of her, but she did care about Heidi's opinion. Holly's young adult trait is that she is a party animal. Her young adult aspiration is to be a party animal as well. Holly was able to graduate, but did not receive good enough grades to be accepted into any colleges. She was entering adulthood with no plan or direction. Heidi blew out her candles and wished for her college experience to be the best time in her life. She struggled with high school, but hoped she came out of her shell in college. Heidi's young adult trait is well balanced. Heidi's young adult aspiration is to be an academic. It was no surprise to anyone that Heidi graduated with honors and was top student. Michael was runner-up, so she graciously allowed him to share the honor with her. The sisters hugged tightly as they graduated high school together. Betsy and Mattie embraced each other. They were so excited to witness their girls achieve such a big accomplishment. Betsy clung to her oldest child and couldn't believe that she was an adult already. She still thought of her as that little baby that cried out for her whenever she put her down. Mattie gifted Heidi a graduation money that he and his wife had saved up for each of their children. Heidi would save every penny as she had received several scholarships for college and didn't need to pay for schooling. Mattie gifted Holly the same amount of graduation money as they did her twin. Holly would use that money to invest in her dream to be a singer. She didn't need money for school because she would not be completing any higher education. Michael grabbed his girl and spun her around for a passionate kiss. They had started and ended high school together, and that was a proud accomplishment. They only had 2 months until the start of college, so they would savor every moment. Heidi greeted Adriana with a big hug. It was a surprise to everyone as she showed up for graduation, so Heidi was so excited to see her. This kept Holly and Glenn on their best behaviors for Heidi's sake. She was not a good liar. Glenn and Michael did their secret handshake and were still as close as they were a year ago. Just like after Glenn's graduation, he and Holly snuck away to share a special moment just for the two of them. They had made it the entire year and were still together. That was Holly's greatest achievement, not high school. They would spend the summer together, and then they would assess how to proceed. Holly would follow him anywhere because she loved him that much. She was just unsure if he loved her the same way she did. Now that Heidi knew of Glenn and Holly's relationship, they were much more lax about their affection during the day since no one was usually home. It was liberating to be able to show love to her boyfriend while in the comfort of her own home. Unbeknownst to Holly, her father had gotten home early from work that day and caught she and Glenn embracing. He could barely believe his eyes. Holly promised her dad it was not what it looked like. Matty refused to hear a word of Holly's excuses. He was furious that she was capable of being so cruel. Adriana had done nothing to her to deserve this betrayal. Holly screamed at her father and argued that Adriana gets everything she wants. When would it be her turn? She loved him and he loved her. He didn't love Adriana. Matty told her that she was no longer welcome under this roof while she was with Glenn. She refused to break up with Glenn, so she decided to pack up her bags that night. Holly had managed to sign all 5 of the friend group up for being counselors at a summer camp a few towns over. She had managed to do so before her father had a chance to tell Adriana what he had witnessed. This bought she and Glenn some time. The kids would not arrive for another few days, so they all took this as an opportunity to have some fun. Holly worked on her suntan. Frustratingly, this is also what Adriana decided to do. It enraged Holly that Adriana had developed curves since being away at college, so this would likely turn Glenn's head towards her. It was a fun first few days of being in the water and out in the sun. It had been an entire year since the gang had all been in the same place, and it felt nostalgic to all be together again. This was the last time they would be together before everyone scattered to different parts of the world. Heidi and Michael took this opportunity of being camp counselors and turned it into one last hurrah, until they moved many hours away and went to different colleges. This time was bittersweet, but they made the most of it. Holly was determined to leave this camp at the end of summer with Glenn as her boyfriend, and she was his only girlfriend. She did whatever it took to keep him interested in her and only her. She made herself available intimately whenever he wanted. She knew what she wanted, and it was Glenn. She would do anything to keep him. She could tell that old feelings had come back for Adriana, and she would not let him slip from her. GRASP. The summer started off really well. Holly and Heidi were in charge of the craft tavern. The kids made adorable art and liked the twins being their counselors. Holly deep cleaned the tables after every craft session with the kids. She actually enjoyed working with the kids, but they were beyond messy. Holly counted down the days until summer camp was over so that she could be done with the love triangle she was unwillingly in. Adriana was blessed that Holly suggested that they all worked at the summer camp for the few months between semesters. She had enjoyed her first year of college so much, but was looking forward to being with her boyfriend and friends. They were all in one place, so they could have the summer of their lives. Adriana was so happy to be back with her friends. Glenn was the head lifeguard for the camp. He enjoyed being able to have this time to think. He felt more himself now that Adriana was back by his side, however. Holly was there for him the entire year. Adriana was not. He didn't know who to choose. Michael was hired on as one of the chefs and a part-time lifeguard. He enjoyed learning how to cook. He was a novice but a fast learner. The head chef granted him more and more work to do because he was exceeding expectations. All the kids loved his food. His least favorite part of kitchen detail was dishes. He scrubbed dishes for hours and was always the last one to complete their tasks for the day. This meant he got less time with his love. Because Michael was assigned kitchen duty, he had a set of keys to the mess hall. They took advantage of this by sneaking in there late at night to partake in a beverage or two together. Old friends became reacquainted as the booze entered their bloodstream. Their time together felt more mature as junk food turned into liquor. They were getting older. Glenn caught Michael up on his relationships. He was bragging that now that Adriana was back, he was going to sleep with 2 girls instead of 1. Michael thought that he was the man. Part of him was jealous. He was exploring his options. He was content with his relationship, so he stayed faithful. With the liquid courage, Holly critically told Adriana, as she had missed so much in the year that she was gone. Holly poked fun at her new curls and said they looked funny on her figure. This wasn't true, but Holly wanted Adriana to feel as miserable as she did. Heidi and Michael continued their summer of love. They often snuck away from their friends to make out. The summer was going by too quickly, and soon they wouldn't be in each other's arms. The Bows slept in the Bows cabin. Both knew that Glenn would not be in the Bows cabin for long. He would be sneaking into one of his girlfriend's beds. The girls shared a cabin together. Holly and Heidi called the bottom bunks, so Adriana was stuck with the top bunk. Glenn decided to sneak into Holly's bunk. He was in love with Adriana but enjoyed the physical side of his relationship with Holly more. They made sure to be quiet to not wake the others. Holly secretly wanted Adriana to catch them, just so it would all be over. Holly and Adriana sometimes switched roles so Adriana could spend time with Heidi. Holly didn't mind. She read to the younger kids and actually enjoyed being around them. Normally young kids annoy her, but maybe the summer away from home was changing her for the better. She was the expert clay molder of all of the camp counselors. This was the task that she fully took charge of. She liked being able to encourage kids to be creative. She, too, was a creative person and hoped to mold these little minds into following their dreams, like she would soon be doing. After all of the kids had left the craft cabin for the day, Holly and Heidi prepared the following day's craft for the kids. The relationship between the twins was still quite rocky. Heidi had a hard time forgiving Holly for what she had done to Adriana. However, her relationship with Holly was something that meant so much to her now, and she didn't want to ruin it when it was not her betrayal. Her heart hurt for Adriana, but she had to trust that Holly would do the right thing. On days when Adriana was on lifeguard duty, she spent time with Glenn. They had a lot of catching up to do, and their relationship did feel strained. Adriana equated this to the distance that had for a year. Their bond would come back naturally in an effort to break the tension. Adriana threw a water balloon at her boyfriend during a swim break. This immediately broke the tension, and they were their normal selves again. Glenn had missed Adriana so much, and their easy relationship only solidified his want to continue a relationship with her, not Holly. They took a dip in the lake while the kids went to the mess hall for lunch. It felt nice to be alone together. It was strange that Glenn had a stronger connection with Adriana, but felt like he could be more himself with Holly. He felt like he did not measure up to the kind of man that Adriana deserved. Glenn figured that is why he cheated on her in the first place. He regretted doing so and did not ever want her to find out. The couple snuck away to the showers and shared an intimate afternoon together before having to return to lifeguard duty. It had been so long since they were together in this way, and it felt good, like they were home. Adriana hadn't even looked at another boy while at school. She was faithful to her boyfriend because she knew he would be faithful to her. They got through her first year of college unscathed. They would get through anything together. After the counselor shift change, the friend group of 5 sat down for lunch. Michael prepared their food. Holly felt it was a good sign that Glenn willingly sat by her in front of Adriana. Maybe he would finally tell her and break things off. Heidi eyed the two secret lovers suspiciously, but said nothing. Holly was grateful that Heidi kept her dirty secret. She was a good sister and an even better friend. Holly was surprised that Adriana didn't even bat an eye to she and Glenn being so close, or having inside jokes together. When Holly was headed back to her cabin to freshen up, she noticed Glenn and Adriana kissing and being overall romantic towards one another. Her heart was shattered. She came to the realization that Glenn was never going to come clean about their relationship. Holly got some special candy from another counselor to cope with the constant betrayal Glenn put her through. She threw herself a pity party. She willingly moved out of her home to defend her relationship. She had nowhere to go, and still, Glenn chose to continue a relationship with both of them. She would have to give him no choice but to come clean. Even though Heidi saw her sister consume the candy, she chose ignorant bliss. She couldn't imagine what it felt like to watch the love of her life with another woman. Heidi chose instead to focus on her own relationship. The summer was over halfway through and they were running out of time. She hated that her summer of romance was tainted by her family drama. She hadn't shared the details she learned with her boyfriend as she expected him to confront Glenn about it. He was fiercely against cheating and would demand Glenn make it right. The group's favorite time of week was putting on musical shows for the kids. This is the role that Holly excelled in. Glenn accompanied her on piano and Michael plucked away on guitar. Neither Heidi nor Adriana were musically inclined, so they danced to the music. This was such a fun time for the sisters. They were building their once inseparable bond again. This made Heidi feel even more guilty for keeping her mouth shut. She felt in the middle of all of the drama and hated it. Glenn snuck over to Adriana's cabin after the concert was over. Adriana loved watching Glenn play his music. She thought he overshined Holly, which was always an added bonus for her. She was so happy that they were back on track as a couple. She wanted to spend as much time with him before they went their separate ways again once school started for both of them. At night time, if the mess hall was occupied, the group gathered around the fire. Holly listened to the group gossip around them, and she was fed up with being at camp. It was silly of her to bring them all here. She effectively pushed Glenn back into Adriana's arms. She was a silly, naive fool. Holly consumed grass for the first time that night. She could not be around her love while he was ignoring her in favor of another person. The other people in the group were curious about the naturally grown party favor, so Holly gave one to each of them. This was everyone's first time doing this type of recreation, so it made everybody feel giggly and loose. They spent the night doing this. It was new territory, and Heidi, Michael, and Adriana did not care for how it made them feel. They didn't like not feeling in control of themselves. Holly and Glenn loved the way it made them feel. After Heidi, Michael, and Adriana passed out from the grass, Holly and Glenn were able to be alone. They snuck out to the lake sans their swimsuits. The being outside in their birthday suits felt liberating and only added to the carefree nature of their night. They got in the water, and it felt so good on their warm skin. Holly was so happy to finally have Glenn all to herself. She hoped this would bring him back to her. He kissed her passionately, reigniting her desire to fight for him. After their grass-induced late-night swim, Glenn paid more attention to Holly. It was still only in the private eye, but it was more than he was giving her before. Holly had been feeling really deflated, so any of his attention was appreciated. She had to prove that her love for him was more valuable than Adriana's. Holly did what she did best, and that was seduce Glenn. Glenn was powerless to her prowess. Neither got much sleep in the final weeks of camp because they stayed up all night curled up to each other. Heidi and Michael soaked up their final days together. In less than a week, they would be leaving camp and packing up for college. They told one another of their undying love and promised to call and write every single day. Their love would stand the test of time. During the final weekend of camp, there was a talent show for all the campers. Holly took this as an opportunity to sing a love song to Glenn. At the very end of the song, she sang the lyric, "I'm the only one for you, Glenn." Glenn stared at Holly in disbelief. His lying and deception was finally revealed. Adriana's heart broke into a million pieces in that moment. She wanted to believe that Holly was lying, but deep down she knew it was true. Heidi was shocked by the lack of class Holly had in the big reveal. She had no respect for their sister and wanted to humiliate her. Michael was relieved that the secret was now, but knew things were about to get bad for Glenn. After Holly got off of the stage, Adriana couldn't contain her anger and slapped Holly across the face. She was no sister of hers. Adriana ran away without another word. She couldn't even look at Glenn. He made a fool out of her. How could she have been so blind? She had many opportunities to be with other men at college, but she stayed faithful. She wanted nothing to do with either of them ever again. Heidi ran after her sister and allowed Adriana to let out all of the emotion she was feeling. The guilt was eating her alive. Heidi didn't want to add insult to injury. She could not keep her knowing of the affair a secret any longer. She told her sister that she found out about them before graduation. Adriana felt betrayed that her best friend in the whole world allowed her to continue to be with Glenn when she knew the truth. She started to yell at her sister. Everyone in her life had failed her. They were complicit in the lie. Adriana didn't know if she could ever forgive Heidi. Heidi argued back that she loved both she and Holly. She didn't agree with Holly's actions but stood by the fact that it wasn't her place to tell. The drama was between Adriana and Holly. She was the neutral party and didn't want to pick a sister. Adriana felt even more betrayed. She had been Heidi's best friend nearly their whole lives. Holly had been cruel to her up until a year ago. Adriana deserved more of Heidi's loyalty than Holly did. Glenn followed after Adriana and caught her before she left the camp. He begged for her back. He said he made a huge mistake with Holly. He loved Adriana. Adriana refused to hear him out. She told him that he was disgusting and not a man to be trusted. She never wanted to see him again. He begged for her to reconsider. The damage was done. She told him that their relationship was permanently finished. She said that he and Holly deserved each other. She poured salt in the wound and she said she would be going back to college and finding an educated, intelligent man that deserved her. Glenn sobbed and realized what a grave mistake he had made. He would never find a woman as incredible as Adriana again. That night, Michael came clean to his girlfriend that he has known about Glenn and Holly before it even happened. He has been aware of their attraction for nearly 2 years but kept it a secret because Glenn is his friend. Heidi erupted in anger. Her knowing for 2 months was one thing. Michael knowing for 2 years was unforgivable. She thought that if Michael could keep this kind of secret, then he could have the potential to cheat on her in college. She was so sure about their relationship up until this point. She told him that she was having doubts about whether they would work in college. If he was friends with and supported a cheater, was he himself capable of cheating? Michael promised her that he would never betray her trust or jeopardize their love. Heidi believed him, but didn't feel as confident in the strength of their relationship anymore. She thought they told each other everything and now they were both liars, all because of Holly and Glenn. After Adriana left the camp, Glenn realized that he couldn't be alone. He lost the woman he truly loved, but he wouldn't lose the woman who never left his side. He solidified their now very public relationship with a kiss. Holly was over the moon that she finally won. Glenn was hers and only hers. This was all she ever wanted. On the last night of camp, Glenn and Holly celebrated their official relationship with a few strong drinks. They both took special candy. Glenn really enjoyed the feeling that these recreational products made him feel. He was heartbroken over losing Adriana and didn't want to feel anything. Part of him hated Holly for forcing this scenario on him. He still wanted to have both women. After the candy had taken their desired effect, they were feeling great. They started to dance together. Through the current hazy lens, Glenn was around. He was happy to have Holly with him. Being with her was better than being alone. She was beautiful and sultry and everything he had always wanted in a partner. He just couldn't understand what was missing in his relationship with her. Holly was more than satisfied with the sequence of events. In their stupor, Glenn asked her to get a place together in Britannia. Holly's life was falling in the direction she wanted it to go. She got the guy. They were moving in together. and she would become a star very soon. One thing led to another, and the couple started to make out. They were together through thick and thin. They consummated their old but now public relationship. As long as they were together, Holly would be okay. She would deal with the wrath of her family, if it came down to it. She didn't need her family if she had Glenn. After camp was over, Betsy asked for Holly to meet her at the family diner. Holly knew that the circumstances of this meeting were not good, from the look on her mother's face. She knew that her mother was disappointed in her. She was prepared to take full accountability for what she has done. Holly said that it was good to see her mother and she missed being at home over the summer. Betsy complained that she left the family with a giant mess that she was trying to clean up. She didn't know how Holly could be so careless. Betsy said that she and Mattie didn't raise her to act this way. Holly immediately got defensive and said she took after her mother in this way. She and Heidi were conceived from infidelity. Betsy did not let her daughter's comment get to her. She said that she has made many mistakes in her life, but her biggest mistake was failing Holly. Natty did not want her returning home for the foreseeable future. Adriana was beside herself with sadness and betrayal. Betsy understood that not all siblings like each other, but what she did to her sister was unforgivable. Holly did take accountability for her actions, but still blamed what she did in the name of love. Betsy does not condone what she did, but hopes that what she did was worth it. Holly explains that what she did was worth it. She respected her family's decision to keep her distance as Adriana healed. She was going to become a singer and someone that her family could be proud of again. She begged her mum to forgive her. Betsy said that time would heal this wound, but she would always love her. Holly left the diner that day and felt at peace with her decisions. She finally got what she wanted. Holly was able to put a down payment on a modest home for she and Glenn with the money she was given at graduation. Their new home was down the road to Breakchester University. Holly focused all of her attention on being the best partner to Glenn. She cooked his meals for him, even though she was a novice in the kitchen herself. Glenn always had a drink in hand since moving in together. Holly ate the meals that she cooked, but Glenn often declined the meal in favor of his drink. There was a sort of distance between the couple since moving in together, at least on Glenn's end. Holly was living out her wildest dreams. She and Glenn were finally together out in the open, and they now lived together. Glenn couldn't get Adriana out of his head, and he drowned his sorrows in a bottle. He blamed Holly for this disaster, and that is why he was cold and distant towards her. The couple's one saving grace was their bedroom antics. This was never a problem for the two of them, and often it was the only thing they had in common. When Glenn wasn't drowning his sorrows in a bottle, he was doing so in Holly. He had to keep his mind off of missing Adriana in any way he could. He was not happy with this outcome, and he quickly realized he didn't actually love Holly. He liked the thrill of the chase when she was forbidden. Now that he had her, he didn't want her. He stayed with her because she gave him a place to live and was fun in the bedroom. That was all. Holly could feel Glenn's shift towards her, but chose to ignore the obvious signs of distance. She clung to the tender moments they shared together in the bedroom. It was the only time that she caught glimpses of the old Glenn, the one she fell in love with. Slowly, Glenn adjusted to his new life with Holly. It wasn't all terrible. They liked to perform shows together in their living room. Holly was about to start auditioning for gigs and needed Glenn to help her to prepare. In between his school schedule, he made himself available to her so she could practice. He figured that their life together would be easier if she had other things to do besides obsess with him. He found that he craved the closeness with Holly not because he loved her, but because he was lonely. He was not making friends in college, and felt more isolated than he did during his gap year. Holly always knew how to make him feel like the most important man, and she stroked his ego in all the right ways. She wasn't someone he could envision getting married to or growing old with, but he liked what they had in the moment. She was beautiful and fun to be around, and that's what he needed. He would tell her what she wanted to hear, so that they could continue as they were. He tried to emulate the boyfriend that he was when Adriana was away at school, and that seemed to help. He was a better boyfriend to Holly when he tricked himself into believing that Adriana was eventual. Like coming back for him, he was able to be romantic and loving in the way she needed him to be. This worked for a while, but something always reminded him that Adriana was never coming back and it was Holly's fault. The booze helped them both. It helped Glenn stay in the relationship, and it helped Holly to ignore all the obvious cracks forming in her relationship. Drinking became something that they did often. It became like a third person in their relationship that kept everything together and carefree. With a drink in his hand, Glenn could stand to look at Holly and even enjoy looking at her pretty face. He was warm and playful and everything he was not when he was sober. Holly knew it was wrong to encourage his drinking, but it was the only way he loved her. She clung to his every word and basked in his attention. He was everything she wanted him to be, with the liquid courage coursing through his body. They became frequent visitors at their local dance club. They often danced until the early hours of the morning. They didn't need to speak when at the dance club. They only had to move their bodies to the music and enjoy the closeness of one another against their skin. Holly knew that at the rate they were going, their relationship would not stand the test of time, but it would be enough for now. And she would find a way to make him love her again.